Good morning, friends. Welcome to Akshadari. Today is 10th June 2023. I hope you guys are preparing good for to make you better in communication and for the competitive exams. So let me start today's newspaper. And before we to start the newspaper, I would request you guys to please subscribe the channel, like and comment. If you like the video, please share and click on the bell icon. Let's start today's newspaper. Yes, let's see what's in the front page. Learn, game, and create. This is about the Galaxy mobile laptop. So it's about the real estate are not useful for the exams. Let's go to the front page. Yes, anti-poaching camp destroyed in Arunachal. BJP's fake factory exposed, says Jairam. Trump indicted in classified papers case. The trauma after tragedy and tracks. Many families continue to search for loved ones. Djokovic moves fast, cramping Alcaraz. Economy and autopilot. Wouldn't overeat for years. Single faint male government stopped to get child care leave. Government will regulate AI if it brings harm to users, says Minister. Lokayukta files CEO motor case over water crisis in Wildfield. Ramagundanhalli, Siddhapura and Tubarahalli residents don't have BWSSP connection, so they depend on water tankers. Sharp drop in the number of homes that were flooded, says civic body. Special court declares Deva CEO fugitive economic offender. Fugitive have economic offender. Pass percentage of UG medical students at Health University up by 2.01% this year. Higher Education Minister asks VCs for written opinion on NAP. Around 49,560 candidates eligible to receive degrees at the 25th convocation of RGUHS today. This year again, girls have secured the highest number of gold medals. A total of 97 students have bagged 108 gold medals. The Hindu Education Plus event in Bangalore today. Siddaramaiah to visit Mysore today. Mango Mela extended by 10 days till June 21. Free rides for women passengers in parts of Karnataka will miss out on benefits. The majority of bus services are run by private operators in coastal Karnataka and Malnad districts. Many in rural areas of old Mysore region also depend on private buses. Private bus owners headed to recover from pandemic impact may be hit by Shakti scheme. Two Tamil plays to be performed in the city tomorrow. Secure report on psychological status of accused before seeking death penalty. Public prosecutor must submit reports including on family background and the feasibility of reforms of the accused to the trial court before the hearing on sentence whenever the imposition of death penalty is sought, says the High Court. CET candidate told to rectify RD number before deadline. Government to review land allotted to RSS other organizations in the last 6 months. Canara Bank's APY award work on a war footing to resolve water problem. Puttaranga Shetty accepts offer to take up a deputy speaker's post. Health Department will invite fresh tenders to operate 108 ambulances, dialysis centers, Minister. And High Group meet signals new churning in Congress. Both groups in Kerala feel elbowed out by a third axis during party reorganization. Chennithala Sudhakaran talks remain inconclusive. The jury is still out on how the end game will play out. Madras High Court sets aside DGFT ban on import of dogs. KCR shows sobs on SCCL staff. Light powered and capacitors developed. AP women panels inquires into student sexual assault charges. Advantages of home loan transfer. When the interest rates goes up, the lenders allow borrowers to continue to pay the existing EMI. It is virtually a lifetime debit trap without understanding the repercussions, says Rajendra Deshpande. The necessity of electricity distribution companies. Unwavering focus. Price stability is a public good and must remain a non negotiable goal. A pragmatic approach for better India Nepal ties. Let's go to the editorial page. The Electricity Act 2003 provided the framework for the dismantling of the state electricity boards and the separation of generation, transmission, and distribution into separate companies. Electricity generation was delicensed, while transmission and distribution remained as licensed and regulated activities. Promoting competition, protecting consumer interest, and the supply of electricity to all were key objectives of the legislation. Under the new regime, a competitive industry structure in generation has evolved. The share of private investment in the creation of new generating capacity has increased rapidly. Competitive procurement through long-term power purchase agreements grew and power prices discovered through the market turned out to be lower than anticipated under the earlier cost plus dispensation for determining tariffs. The impressive growth in renewable power is entirely the result of private investment. Tariff-based bids for the supply of electricity to distribution companies has been the key to the extraordinary success of the National Solar Mission. Further, India now has one of the cheapest rates for solar power supply in the world. The UK model. When the contours of the new law were being discussed, the introduction of the full deregulation and competition, like in the United Kingdom in the early 1990s, was advocated by those who believed that we should adopt the latest reforms from the West. In the UK, a mandatory power pool had been created where all generators submitted bids for the next day, indicating the quantity they could supply along with the price. These bids were stacked in ascending order of price. The price with the quantity at which the total demand indicated by the suppliers would be met became the pool price for electricity. This mimicked the intersection of the supply and demand curves to get the market price. Full retail competition had also been introduced and consumers could choose from among several suppliers who had emerged to serve the market. Though these reform ideas had a strong constituency, including Enron, these were found to be unsuitable for India. Power was and is being supplied from individual power plants through long-term contracts at prices determined for each. As the plant depreciates, the fixed cost component in the tariff declines. The older the plant, the cheaper its electricity. Adopting the pre-market model would have meant that all electricity would be sold at the price of the electricity from the most expensive plant at which demand would be fully met. The resultant steep price shock could just not be absorbed. For example, electricity from Bakra Nangal, which was being supplied at a few price for a unit, would have had to be sold at over 4 a unit then. For decision makers, such a deregulation became a non-starter once The full implications were understood. The distribution licensee has the universal service obligation of supplying electricity to meet the full demand of a heavy consumer in its license area. Therefore, the discom has the responsibility of the projecting demand growth and making arrangements for reliable electricity supply. It does this by entering long-term power purchase contracts. Power generating capacities have risen rapidly and the power supply portion has become comfortable. Therefore, has also been the milestone of the completion of rural and household electrification, where discoms have been pivotal. Open access and cross subsidy. The Electricity Act gives consumers with a load of 1 megawatt and above the right to open access, enabling them to buy electricity from whomever they choose to and pay the discom only for the use of their distribution network and a cross subsidy surcharge. This cross subsidy surcharge became necessary as higher end industrial and commercial consumers pay more and cross subsidize the lower end households whose tariffs are less. However, the explicit mandate in the Electricity Act to the state electricity regulatory commissions to progressively reduce cross subsidies remains unimplemented. This has resulted in the cross subsidy surcharge continuing and acting as a barrier. Not many large consumers are meeting their electricity needs even now using open access. At the margins, generating plants may be able to generate electricity over and above what they are required to supply through their existing contracts. Discoms may have surpluses as well as shortages at a different points of time. These can be sold. Power exchanges have come up to enable trading and optimal utilization of the total generating capacity in the country. The exchange prices are volatile, either a little above marginal cost with when demand is modest and shooting up when demand surges, necessitating the imposition of price caps. This is not an unexpected phenomenon as demand for electricity is inelastic. Reforms, markets, and competition and the consumer choice have positive connotations. Discounts are seen as the weak link in the supply chain of electricity with rising cumulative losses and an inability to pay generators on time. The idea of somehow dispensing with the discoms and letting the free market to solve the problems of the power sector appears deceptively simple and attractive. The problems with discoms, however, lie in the domain of political economy. Foremost here is the inability of regulators in the states to determine cost of reflective tariffs. State governments find it difficult to give timely subsidies as required by law. This underlying problem cannot be solved by implementing some inputted reform ideas. There is the political economy issue of misgovernance and rent seeking in some states where a privatization, as in Delhi, may perhaps be the only solution. An investment in generating capacity has been taking place primarily on the strength of long term PPAs with discoms. Financing equity as well as debit are de risked by these PPAs, which have the implicit guarantee of the state. The energy transition to renewable is accelerating and the reliability of power supplies is increasing. This is based on discoms projecting the demand and entering long-term contracts for meeting increasing demand. Without discoms, this edifice would collapse, and without new investment, we may face power shortages again. It needs to be noted that the exemplar of us reformers, the UK didn't see significant demand growth and the consequent need for new generating capacity after the new dispensation came into place. However, to drive the energy transition, the state had to invite bids for renewable energy through contract for differences, which assured successful bidders payment of the difference between the market price and their bid price whenever the market price fell below their bid price. The war in Ukraine has led to ironical consequences emanating from a dogmatic faith in the deregulated market. Electricity prices went up many times due to the elasticity of electricity demand. Government was compelled to give cash support for lifeline consumption, Of energy companies reached record highs, and the government had to impose taxes on their windfall profits. In the earlier era, government would have considered imposing price controls. Gordon Brown, the former Prime Minister, went so far as to call for temporary nationalization. The consequences of implementing the reform idea of doing away with the centrality of the discom must be thought through. Lessons from the experience of the last year in the UK should be analyzed. There are no quick fix, easy solutions. A pragmatic approach for better India Nepal ties. Let me read this. Despite daunting challenges to Nepal's democracy, governance, and stability had seemingly intractable bilateral irritants. The Prime Minister of Nepal and India have shown that a pragmatic approach and mutual sensitivity can re energize bilateral relations. The Prime Minister of Nepal, Pushpa Kamal Dahal Prachanda's first bilateral visit to India since assuming the office in the current term is notable in this sense, driven by challenges presented by the post COVID 19 world, current realities, as well as huge opportunities. India and Nepal were able to review the entire spectrum of the bilateral agenda covering political, economic, trade, energy, security, and developmental cooperation, realistic handling of irritants. Prajanda deserves credit for this. He is in a weak position at home as leader of only the third largest party in parliament, well behind KP, Holi and Sher Bahadur Duaba, who are waiting to take over from him, and not to speak of leaders from smaller parties who are being wooed by the opposition to cause political instability. Prachanda has shown political courage and probably shrewdly calculated the cost of paying heed to the spectrum of political noises, warning him not to be soft and to extract solutions to irritants such as the 1950 treaty, border differences, and India's reluctance to receive the report of the eminent persons group set up by the two governments. Instead, he seems to have listened to the few voices of reason and moderation and to focus on opportunities to building a better future. Prachanda has had stints as Prime Minister. In his very first term as a fiery, moist rebel turned political leader, he did give India a few rude shocks, crossing red lines by insisting on visiting China first and dismissing the army chief considered to be a play palace loyalist, to which India took a strong objection. There was a clear understanding that when the Mayas joined the political mainstream, there would be no interference with the Royal Nepal army. Later, India too would give Prachanda a few shocks, sending Prime Ministerial special invite to urge Madheshi parties not to support Prachanda in order to save his government. But this time round, Prachanda came across as a serious, self confident, and mature statesman. The Indian Prime Minister too has shown sensitivity, for example, when he reassured Prachanda that differences on the border issue would be resolved to mutual satisfaction. Neither side tried to justify their official version of the border as the correct one towards economic integration. The visit has helped in underlining the real priorities, the game changers, which can transform the economic landscape of the sub-region, such as hydropower projects to supply energy to India and eventually to Bangladesh, infrastructure access to Indian river transport, innovative tourism circuits, and better connectivity. In the aftermath of the COVID 19 pandemic, renewed high level commitment to bilateral cooperation on multiple fronts with improved and deliveries was necessary. There was unprecedented cross party consensus when the Mahakali Treaty identifying the Pancheshwar multipurpose project with power stations of equal capacity on both banks of the river was negotiated, signed, and received parliamentary ratification a few years ago. Despite political changes in both countries, the finalized detailed project report will be submitted to both governments expeditiously. Finances arranged and modalities of implementation and concluded within 1 year after the approval of the DPR. There is a new dimension of cooperation in the power sector with the transmission passage trilateral power transaction from Nepal to Bangladesh through India. With new power projects are now under implementation are on the drawing board and the finalization of an agreement for long-term power trade wherein it was agreed to strive to increase the quantum of export of power from Nepal to India to 10,000 megawatt within a time frame of 10 years, and era of prosperity awaits the entire sub-region. The cooperation for payment technology. Enhancing digital financial connectivity is another crucial development. The MOU between the National Payment Corporation of India and the Nepal Clearing House Limited for facilitating cross-border digital payments, and the Indian office offered to create a ground station and supply 300 user terminals to offer the services of the South Asia satellite to Nepal under grant assistance are important. They would promote a regional cooperation in the space sector and space technology applications in telecommunication and broadcasting, telemedicine, teleeducation, e-governance, banking and ATM services, meteorological data transmission, and disaster response, and the networking of academic and research institutions. The real challenge for Nepal is to depoliticize the cooperation with India, especially in water resource cooperation, improve the quality of democracy and governance at home, and check unbridled corruption, which is alarming even by South Asian standards. For India, it may be necessary to address the perception in Nepal that it is no longer a foreign policy priority, and to give a sense of ownership, equality, and credit for major forward movement in sectors such as IT report to parties across the political spectrum, rather than only to the government of the day. Predictably, the opposition parties in Nepal have termed the visit as sellout, but they should be made aware of the fact that if there continues to be a steady focus on development, as demonstrated during the Prachanda visit, despite possible political instability in Kathmandu, Nepal will find India going the extra mile in meeting its needs and expectations. So, the India Nepal ties. Complicated case with Donald Trump's indictment, the US polity will see further polarization. Let's go to the next page. Tragedy on the tracks. Yes. Most of the victims of the accident involving three trains in Balasore district on June 2 were migrant laborers. Satya Sundar Barik and Maitri Parochak's report on the agony of the families who continue to search for their loved ones even as the CBI investigates the crash, one of the deadliest in India in 2 decades. One of the deadliest in India in 2 decades. The fact that multiple families are staking climb to the same bodies has complicated the situation. This is one of the very worst railway accident in the first 2 decades, as per the report. Let's try to read this report. Nageshwar Kumar and Kailash Kumar are farmers and friends. So today there is one more thing. One more thing that binds them together: the grief of losing a child. On June 2nd, an accident involving the three trains took place in Balasore district of Odisha. Their son's 18 years old Ghanshyam and 22-year-old Hadi had boarded the 1284 one Howrah Chennai Coromandel Express, one of the three trains. Nageshwar and Kailash had rushed the Balasore, located 400 kilometers from their home in Damka district in Jharkhand. I visited hospitals in Balasore, Saur and Katak, said Nageshwar. I lifted the white sheets of the half nuts and bodies, but there was no shing of him. There was no sign of him. 2 days later, they made a final attempt to search for their sons who were traveling to Chennai to work for a construction company. At the site of the one of the deadliest train crashes of India in two decades, two days later, they made a final attempt to search for their sons. They were traveling to Chennai to work for a construction company. At the site of the one of the deadliest train crashes of India in two decades, so near the Bahanaga Bacha railway station, they walked past large cranes lifting demand coaches from the railway tracks. Rescue personnel and anguished family members milled around the site. The two families' fathers were finally turned away by railway protection post personnel. They stood under the sun, eyes brimming with tears, unsure of what to do next. Nageshwar finally traced the body of Ghanshyam to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Bhubaneswar Kailash has still not found her day. Rajesh Kumar, Senior Divisional Commercial Manager, Southeastern Railway, explained how the accident took place on the evening of June 2. The Coromandel Express left the main line and allegedly entered the loop line about 500 meters from the Bahanagar Bazaar station. There, the train, which was traveling at a speed of 128 kilometers per hour, crashed into a stationary goods train loaded with iron ore. The tremendous impact of the collision caused the coaches of the Coromandel Express to derail. Some of the coaches were thrown across the adjacent tracks, where two general coaches of the incoming 12864 Bengaluru Aura Superfast Express rammed into them, said Kumar, who was part of the rescue operation. The accident has claimed 288 lives and left 1,200 passengers injured. Hearing that deepening sounds from these crashes, the residents of at least five villages and all towns nearby ran to the spot. They said they initially saw dust clouds in the night sky. Minutes Minutes later, it became clear that a terrible accident had taken place. They heard cries of help from the coaches piled on top of one another and saw mangled bodies and blood everywhere. Champadi Behera, a resident of one of the villages, said he was horrified by the scene. I ventured into the wreckage while I was trying to lift a woman who was lying in a pool of blood inside an overturned coach. Other person grabbed my leg. I can never forget that sight, he said. In search of livelihood. For migrant laborers from remote pockets in West Bengal, Jharkhand, behind Odisha, the Coromandel Express is a much sought after train. Their desperation to earn a decent living, many people from these regions board the general coaches of the Coromandel Express, even if it means being packed like sardines in a tin for 17 hours. They find work in Chennai to or travel to Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Kerala, and other parts of Tamil Nadu in search of decent wages. Sometimes employers provide loyal and skilled workers sleepover class tickets. Have only three because of upland agricultural fields, said Nageshwar, who hails from Dumarjor village in Jharkhand. The crop output is not even enough to feed my family for a full year. Forget earning anything from it. A daily wage worker cannot fetch more than 200 per day, and finding regular jobs is difficult. The children in this village, he said, start working from the age of 16. By the time they are 20, they identify workplaces in South India and begin work as daily wages in the construction, apparel, and plywood sectors. The passengers who sustained injuries and the ones who died were largely between the ages of 20 and 40 years. It is rural India that has borne the brunt of this accident. Most of the dead were migrant laborers and they have left behind families who are both grief stricken and worried about their survival. The catastrophic evening. Deepak Kumar Behra, a 35-year-old retired army jawan, described the accident site as a war zone. He recorded hundreds of villagers gathering at the spot within minutes of the crash. Everyone called auto rickshaws and started sending injured passengers to hospital. Auto rickshaw drivers didn't pay attention to the fuel stock. He said a locals like him and ventured deeper into the wreckage. They found several coaches lying twisted, mangled, and even upside down. B. Hanu, a 35-year-old woman who works in the Fran farm, has been admitted in the Balasur District Headquarters Hospital with multiple fractures. She shivered while recalling the details of the accident and her rescue. Hanu was traveling in a general coach of the Superfast Express. I was returning to Chandipur in Balasur district from Srikakulam district of Andhra Pradesh. When I gained consciousness after the accident, I found myself lying under the weight of five bodies. I could not only move my hand, a person who was traveling with he pulled me out from the heap of bodies, she said. While the first responders were locals, personals of the Odisha Disaster as Rapid Action Force and the National Disaster Response Force hurried to the spot with fire and gas cutters soon after the accident. Dhananjaya Kumar, district commandant of the NDRF, recollected the magnitude of the crisis. A man in his 30s had been embracing a body for 6 hours before he was rescued. In a general coach of the Command Coromandel Express, we found a man sandwiched between the wall of the toilet and the bodies around him. He was shrinking, shrieking. He had not been able to move for hours. In Odisha, the 3rd Battalion of the NDRF is extensively trained in dealing with disasters such as cyclones and floods. But the horrific train accident of the June 2 car taught for the unit many lessons, said the NDRF personnel. Hundreds of people could be saved because of timely action. Odisha has gained experience from responding to disaster infrastructure, including gas cutters, hydraulic lifters, diesel generators, lighting equipment, and fast-moving ambulances were quickly deployed, said Hemant Sharma, State Industry Secretary, who was supervising work at the crash site. Within hours of the accident, Union Minister of Railway Ashwin Vaishnav reached the site and began monitoring rescue operations as well as track repair work. He had served a 3-year tenure as in Balasur as collector in 1999, during which time a cyclone ravaged the district. 2 days after the rain accident, Vaishnav stood by the track and watched as train services resumed. The wall of the dead. While the track is functional, the Indian Railways has two immediate problems at hand. The first is to find out how the accident occurred. On June 5, there was flurry of activity in the station master's room at the Bahanaga Vajra station. An intermittent beeping sound emanated from the block panel, which serves as a controlling mechanism for setting signals and aligning tracks for trains. Protocols on how to avoid accidents and what should be done in the event of signals and points failing were posted on the wall. The train signal is connected via underground optic fiber to the track, and the routes are set remotely from the station manager's office. A senior railway official explained. The station master and staff members constantly monitored the block panel as senior official from the railways, including the Director General of Safety and the Central Bureau of Investigation, visited the accident spot to investigate the possibilities of sabotage or malfunction of technology. The Coromandel Express was not scheduled to stop at the station on that ill-fated evening. The station master and the postman, pointsman who were on duty, said a senior railway official who was present at the accident site. Nearly 50 officials, including the station master and the pointsman, have now been placed under inquiry and have been told not to resume their jobs until the probe is complete. The second problem is the quick handover of the bodies. As per protocol, bodies that remain unclaimed after 72 hours are reported missing, and the state decides what to do with them. A thick book neatly bounded in green, LA had the office. It contained over 200 photographs of mutilated bodies, each bearing a unique number. The Balasore district magistrate, the Tatreya Shinde, said that the office had decided to process the death certificates of nearly 100 bodies that had been handed over to families. Shinde was concerned about the bodies that remained unidentified, but he ruled out mass cremation as soon as an option. On June 6, all bodies were shifted to AIMS in Bhubaneswar, but distraught family members continued to throng Balasore's Fakir Mohan Medical College and Army Hospital. They scanned the wall of the dead in the hospital, which contained over 100 blown up photographs. Jagdish Chandra Prasad from Howrah was frantically searching for his brother on the wall. He broke down when he saw the picture labeled body number 100. I am not fully sure if this is him, but it could be. He kept saying to the Odisha Health Department staff at the help desk. The staff member asked Prasad to go and search for the body in Bhubaneswar 3 hours away. For some families, this is not possible. The parents of Ansuraj and Raghuveer from Dumarchore village of Jharkhand, Dumka, said they had to accept that they would no longer see their sons. If we continue to search for their bodies, costs will go up. We simply cannot afford it, they said. Doctors at AIMS, the Bhubaneswar Municipal Corporation, state and police officials from West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Jharkhand, Bihar, and Odisha, and government railway police staff have been working around the clock to ensure that bodies are handed over to the rightful claimants. Late at night on June 26, Srimati Murmu, a tribal woman from Jharkhand, parked herself outside the AAMS committee room. She clutched her bank account details and her husband Chandra Todu Aadhaar card. She claimed that body number 64 was her husband. But the Odisha police insisted that a body blood relative be called to submit their DNA sample so that it could be matched with the preserved tissue sample taken from the corpse. A day later, Chandra brother Hari came to the hospital from Jharkhand to give his blood sample. Hari is one of the 49 blood relatives who have given their blood samples so far. Up to 89 bodies lay unidentified until the evening of June 7 amid extreme pressure from the senior officials to hand them over. Said a senior railway official. While at first we were handing over the bodies to the people who claimed them, we became careful after 2 days. The official said compensation of up to 15 lakh has been announced for these victims' next of kin. A senior UIATA official said that in one case, body's biometrical had been taken. The body was handed over to the claimant along with the compensation check, as it was impossible to verify the biometrics and match them with to those of the claimant within a short period of time. But after 2 days, when these results came in, identity of the body was found to be difficult. Immediately, a stop check instruction was issued and investigation was requested. The official said that multiple families are taking claim to the same bodies as complicated the situation. Said AIMS Director Dr. Ashutosh Bishwas. Since the CBI is conducting an inquiry, all the samples have been flown to AIIMS Delhi. We should receive DNA sample results in 7 to 10 days, he said. Mamu and dozens of families have been assured that the results of the DNA matching tests will be conveyed to them over a phone call. They have been advised to return to their villages after submitting their samples. Recurring nightmares. While relatives search for their loved ones, The injured are struggling to deal with that trauma. At the Fakir Mohan Hospital, Jatinder Nayak, an injured passenger, was getting ready to be discharged 4 months ago. Nayak, 29, had taken a loan of 30,000 at a hefty interest of 26% to pay his father's medical bills. But my father died of cardiac problems, he said. Nayak, a resident of Tapkhand village in Basta Blaka Odisha, then decided to travel to Chennai. I was promised a job that would fetch me 18,000 a month. That is twice the amount we can get in the village through small time farming, he said. Nayak first traveled from his village to Balasore station by bus at a cost of 40. He then bought his general reservation ticket worth 350 and boarded the Coromandel Express. He remembered eating a piece of bread and drinking some water before the accident took place. Since the crash, Nayak had been unable to sleep properly every 3 4 hours. I wake up with a jolt after night, he said. He said, as he has made a own never to travel by train again. This is about the tragedy on the tracks. Let's go to the next page. Economy on autopilot wouldn't wait for years. BJP's pay factor stands exposed with the Bengal's issue. Death once Sharad Pawar of same pate as another Dabolkar. Yesterday, Dennis immediate intervention in plea and note exchange. Railways renews push for safety training among staff. Jaipur foot makers offer limb fitment to amputees. Odisha government to raise rebuild crossings used as mortuary. Piped portable water across India will have at 4 lakh diarrhea deaths, finds WHO. The center says it will achieve 100% coverage under the Jal Jeevan mission by 2024. So far, 5 states, including Gujarat, Telangana, Haryana, and Punjab, have reported full coverage. Background checks will have Love Jihad, says Uttarakhand CM. Two academicians, as can see at it, drop their names as advisors. Arunachal anti-poaching camp destroyed by mob. Three feared dead as illegal mine collapses in Dhanbad. Infight mercy for Murugan. Trump charged with 37 counts in classified documents case. Russia to deploy nuclear weapons in Belarus in July. Australia seeking to stabilize, not normalize relations with China. Russia-China ties offer global stability. Government to clarify decisions on foreign spends. Finance Minister seeks to resolve persistent doubts over applicability of new 20% tax collected at source one overseas expenditure. Ministry had issued detailed clarifications in May following outcry from industry and taxpayers over levy. Domestic GDP growth is on firm footing. See XBI economists. Gopas lenders to said to have set up committee of creditors. Use financing for new jets. New business of life insurance was 4% lower in May. HDFC Bank to keep focus on home loans post merger. Tech interventions driving fashion sales in India, says Flipkart. Rahani Shadul help India live to fight another day. Joko gets past a cramping Alcaraz enters 34 for slam final. Sahal Changte deliver for India. Both teams play a bit rusty, ponting. Much improved Machova stands between Swiatek and a third title. Though the defending champion is the favorite, having unlocked the secrets of the Paris clay with a modern game that includes aggressive play, Mucho is capable of springing another surprise with multi-dimensional play. India gears up for Japan challenge. Ticket sales still up top 1 million for Women's World Cup. Big ticket tends all set to leave India at Tata Open Master exits. Last page. City starts the favorite but can interrupt its apple cart. Can make City break the Champions League duck. Vishwanath relives his iconic 97 against the Windies at Chipok. Will Gundo's big game must trip over another City triumph? Dazzling Rose John continues to live up to the hype. The 20-year-old American, regarded as a generational talent, poised to dominate women's golf, produced a statement win on a professional debut. Her triumph drew Tiger Woods' attention and announced to the world that the astonishing ability she showcased as an amateur can transition to the pros. This is the last page. Dazzling Rose John continues to live up to the hype. I still think I'm human, so I do feel little small butterflies here and there, but have been able to tap into my June and go back to what my body knows. 20-year-old American regarded as a generational talent poised to dominate women's goal producer a statement win on a professional debut. At Triumph drew Tiger Woods' attention and announced to the world that the astonishing ability she showcased as an amateur can transition to the pros. Live up to the hype. Yes, guys, I hope you guys complete the reading up to 40, minimum 40 minutes, 2 hours to make you better in communication. So, I hope you guys may repeat the same tips. And please subscribe the channel, like and comment, and see you in the upcoming videos with very good informative videos related to education, healthcare, and personal news, especially related to education. And see you in the upcoming videos. Have a great day. Bye bye. Take care.